You're listening to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast for and by Rockies fans on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Thank you for joining us as we discuss all things baseball and Colorado Rockies.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast part of the Rocky Mountain Rooftop Network, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Skyler Timmons, joined here once again, fresh off his Black Friday shopping, it's Evan Lang.
I spent too much money on things I don't need. Capitalism.
The spirit of the holidays. Right before we started recording, Evan was telling me about some of his ventures on Black Friday of some nice things highlighted by the Rockies mystery bag.
Yeah, I went to the Rockies dugout store and checked out their $100 mystery bag bundle. And honestly, it might be too late at this point because I know they were advertising it as only on Black Friday and then the Saturday after. But for the $100 I paid for it, it's a pretty solid bundle. I got a blank jersey that comes with a free customization ticket to be done at the stadium, and that's pretty great, honestly. And there's no expiration date on the coupon, so I can wait and see what the roster is going to look like
Wait
next
until there's a player
year
you want
before committing to a player. Came with a seat cushion. Those are always nice. Came with a hat. Came with a bunch of other little trinkets and stuff like that. Came with a game-used baseball, which are normally sold for between $50 and $75 at the Authentics booth at Coors Field. So that's already, honestly, a pretty good deal. However, ironically, or I suppose not ironically, the in the spirit of the 2025 season, the game-used ball that I got was one of the many promising Miami Marlins young players hitting a double off of Kyle Freeland. And then my favorite part of the bundle is this large bean-shaped plush of Dinger. Like, it's just a big bean, and then it's got the Triceratops frill on the top and Dinger's face on it, and I've already decided that it is my best friend and I would die for it.
There you go. Now, the real question is, would you kill for it?
Who told you he was asking me to do that?
Fun.
Do you have
for me,
to be killed first, Skyler?
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's what it takes. My sacrifice to make the Rockies better. No, I'm always boring. I'm at that age now where I get excited like, ooh, pants are on sale at Sam's Club. And so I went and got myself some good little dress pants because I'm going to start substitute teaching. Started doing that, so I need some better looking pants. And hey, I already wear a pair of chinos today, and they felt good.
And hey, if you're substitute teaching, that means a captive audience for the show.
There you go. I should just start playing the podcast over the projector.
Yeah. It's like, when you had a sub and they didn't really have a lesson plan, so they'd wheel in the TV and you'd
instead of watching Dirty Jobs in the shop
Dirty
class,
Jobs or Mythbusters or something. Instead, you make them listen to the show. And there will be a test on this, children.
It's true. What's that? No, it won't be for a grade. It'll just be a test. But yeah, that's about it. All that fun stuff. But
I will say, I have to agree with you. Like, it sounds so lame, but as an adult, there really is, like, there's a nice feeling towards getting a good pair of pants that fit nicely at a reasonable price.
Mm-hmm.
Same with socks. It's like, oh man, I got some really nice warm socks for really cheap.
Yeah. Or like you go to Walmart and like, oh, these Wranglers are typically $21. They're on sale for $13. Heck yeah.
Under Armour undershirts are buy one, get one free.
I'm never going to wear them, but I can't pass up that deal.
Oh, I wear them every day. They're great for wearing underneath my work shirt so you don't sweat through your nice work polos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the fun stuff. And then, of course, you catch hey, get HBO Max for $3 a month for a year. Like,
okay.
If
only HBO Max would stop deleting all the good cartoons.
Mm-hmm. And everybody's hiking up their prices. But hey, stranger things have happened. I
I haven't watched Stranger Things since season 1.
Oh, you fool. You fool. That was 10 years ago.
Oh my God, was
These
it?
children have mortgages now.
At least they can afford mortgages with their fancy Hollywood pay.
Millie Bobby Brown is married and has a kid.
That's upsetting.
Oh, they adopted a kid.
That's still upsetting. I mean, but it's the same thing as like, we remember during Rocktober when Matt Holliday was here, Ethan Holliday was a baby,
Mm-hmm.
and now he is an adult human man.
I do like on Instagram. I think Ethan Holliday has changed his profile pic to it's him. It was probably in the 2018 Holiday, or it was pretty recently. Or one of his, where he's kind of like in the little toddler stage in our little Rockies uniform. That's his profile pic on Instagram now.
Yeah, he
Fun.
was still really young when Matt Holliday reunited with the team in 2018,
Which is getting close to 10 years ago. A couple years off.
Rocktober
7 years ago.
Rocktober was 18 years ago.
It can vote now. Rocktober can vote now.
We're old.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, let's get into the show because we got plenty to talk about. Real quick, sports roundup. Avalanche still doing Avalanche things. Power play still stinky, but everything else is still great.
Yeah, you really can't complain too much about the power play when you still only have one loss in regulation. Your goalies put together 3 straight shutouts, and you had a 10-game winning streak.
Yeah.
And then the one game you lost in overtime against a pretty good Wild team, still got the point, and then immediately came back and beat the bejesus out of the Canadiens in our beautiful Quebec Nordiques throwbacks.
Yeah, and it's crazy that they only have one game in which they have not walked away with a point.
Yeah.
Like
there is very little to complain about for the Avs right now.
Yeah, so they're having fun. The Nuggets hitting a bit of a rough patch because the injury bug has knocked out Christian Brown that we've talked about. Aaron Gordon's out. Other guys are dealing, so they're kind of a short bench right now.
Yeah,
and you can definitely tell they're lacking on the defensive side of things.
Yeah, and what's really cost them over the last 2 games, walked away with a win last night, but lost a winnable game in the NBA Cup, whatever, against the Spurs, and lots of turnovers, some sloppy ball handling, and you can tell that the Avs are just struggling a little bit now, missing 2 important players, but definitely worth shouting out Peyton Watson and Spencer Jones, who both have had some really good games over the last couple days.
Yeah, Cam Johnson had a good breakout game. He's still trying to find his consistency with the Nuggets, and Jokic still doing Jokic things.
Needs to stop turning over the ball so much.
Yeah. Tim Hardaway Jr. is continuing to be a rock in there, so they'll be fine. They just got to weather the storm of guys being injured.
Yeah,
really makes you like appreciate in baseball where a guy goes down, you immediately fill their spot with a promising player who then can slot in and whatnot. But no, it's a little more dicey with like basketball and whatnot.
Wait, you can do that in baseball? If someone goes down, you can fill them with someone promising?
In theory, but you can fill them up with somebody.
You could put a person there, like Orlando Arcia.
Like typically, you won't work on a short bench.
Yeah, well, it's tough because with basketball, your starting lineup is 5 guys, and you maybe have 9 dudes dressed for the night.
Yeah, yeesh. Fun stuff. And then as for the Broncos, it's been a little bit. They didn't play last week, right? They're on a bye.
They were on a bye last week. The Dallas Cowboys beat the Kansas City Chiefs on Thanksgiving Day to give the Broncos a clear runway to just take off for the division.
Fun stuff. They take on the Commandeers tonight as we record, so we'll watch that later tonight. Fun stuff, but sports keep on rolling on in Colorado. Fun stuff.
Oh, but, and the Mammoths started their season.
Oh, good for them. It's surprising how little lacrosse plays. It's like 1 game a week.
Yeah, you'd think they'd have longer seasons with more games.
Yeah, but
considering what the NHL schedule looks like.
Yeah, but then you think like, there's probably not as many teams, so it's a little fewer opportunities to play people. You don't want to be playing them constantly every week. And
And I suppose worth shouting out as well, last night the University of Denver Pioneers played the Minnesota Golden Gophers in a revived rivalry game at Ball Arena. It was a really fun game, lots of high-flying stuff, but unfortunately, the Denver Pioneers went down 6-5 in OT with only something like 30 seconds left to play.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. Fun stuff. But let's roll into it, and we're going to have a conversation that'll probably carry over into our other segments because, hey, this is the big news of the week, Evan, where the Rockies have filled their manager position. It was the last one open around the hiring cycle around Major League Baseball. There's about 10 openings or so. It was like nearly half the league was looking for a new manager, and the Rockies were the last one to finally fill their position. And Paul DePodesta makes the decision to hire Warren Schaeffer, remove the interim tag. He now has the full hire as the full title of manager of the Colorado Rockies, the 8th full-time manager in team history, correct? And yeah, so Schaeff is the new manager, and we'll get that full reign and control. And it's a little polarizing move across Rockies land and in the media landscape for a lot of folks. And we'll dive all into that as we talk more and whatnot. But really, Evan, I think we're both in the camp that this is a good move and
Yeah.
good for Schaeff. Congrats to Warren Schaeffer.
Yeah, we're well documented on here our love of Warren Schaeffer as he's come up through the Rockies system, and it's not a flashy move, it's not a showy move, and I would argue that that's what makes it the right move for at least the next couple of years. You know, it's expected that this is going to be maybe a 2 to 3 year deal, so it's also pushing against the fact the idea that people had of, oh, they'll just put Schaeffer in for next year before the lockout. Is no, they appear to be giving him a vote of confidence to at least kick off this rebuild. And it's because it's not flashy, it's not showy, that makes it, in my opinion, the right decision. Because one, I don't think a big flashy move to be like, all right, the Rockies are back and on the map was really going to do much of anything, because the Rockies just have so far to go still. Like, we're on ground level of a full-scale rebuild, and we've got a long way to go. So having a guy like Warren Schaeffer, who can learn and grow as the rebuild progresses, but already has the buy-in of the guys in the clubhouse, has worked through incredibly difficult situations such as last season, and overall, like, yes, he's cheaper for sure than other managers could be, but it's much more the fact that he's bought in, he's invested, he's said time and time again that he wants to help this team get through the rebuild, that he's got the back of the guys in the clubhouse as they do it. And he's not a traditional old school manager. And did he make mistakes last year? Of course he did. It was his first time managing a big league club.
And every manager makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Everybody. Dave Roberts makes mistakes.
Dave Roberts kept going to Blake Treinen in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they still won the World Series. So, but for Warren Schaeffer, the reason why I like this move is because it's kind of a win-win. Like, there really isn't a losing scenario for this right now. The Rockies are still going to be pretty bad in 2026. I would be shocked if they were any good. Like, they're probably not going to be as historically bad, but they're still going to be bad. They're a rebuilding team that's working on, every single part of the game. And if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, Schaeff is not being paid that much money. And if it does, you got in on the ground floor for a manager that you really like, and he's not being paid that much money. So it's kind of a steal either way, but it's nice to have a guy that is fully bought in, because I'm not going to lie, I don't think a lot of flashy or big name managers would have really enjoyed this position, because there is no immediate window for contention. This will not be a short rebuild.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like, because that's kind of the main criticism that people have, is that he's inexperienced and he represents the losing culture of the Rockies. He oversaw a team that lost 119 games. Mind you, this is a guy who took over in mid-May And yeah, the team was bad regardless who was managing. But we saw, if you follow the Rockies very closely, if you watched every game like you and I do, like a lot of the media people like the people, the beat writers, you think Patrick Lyons, you think Patrick Saunders, Thomas Harding, and those people that are there every day. A friend of the show, Christian Saez with DNVR Rockies, people who are there every day in, day out, and seeing Warren Schaeffer's effect on that team and how he operated in working with the media and with those players, it's a it was a no brainer. Okay, yeah, he's a perfect man for the job. This works.
Yeah.
It's the casual people, your Mark Kliz, your Troy Ranks, your a lot of those guys. They're going to be a little bit more like, this isn't the right move because he represents that losing culture. And I think you hit it on the nail, Evan, where this is a guy who is all in. Schaefer knows the inadequacies of this organization coming up as a player and as a coach and, being there as the manager. He knows where the Rockies are lacking. And he said it plenty of times in post game, interviews of, hey, we need more of this. We need more of that. We need to do this, that. And this is a collaborative effort of Warren Schaeffer's all in with the Rockies. He is bought in with what Paul DePodesta wants to do and hopefully has that reign to work collaboratively to rebuild this team. And I think this is interesting. This is what DePodesta said. I mean, they had their meeting with the media. I certainly explored the idea of exploring other managerial candidates, he told the media. I thought it was important to do that and talk to a lot of people about different potential candidates. But ultimately, this is where I landed in hiring Schaefer. And it was pretty quick. I mean, I would say even a week in with the number of people that I had spoken to, both in the organization and outside the organization, about Schaefer, it became pretty clear to me that this was a good direction to go. And as soon as Paul DePodesta was hired, he and Warren Schaefer were in communication immediately, texting, calling, eventually meeting face to face. So this tells me like Schaefer is all in. Like he's done the groundwork to be in this position.
Yeah. And the fact that DePodesta, basically, as soon as he joined the organization, is inundated with people both inside and outside the organization. Baseball people telling him Schaefer is the man for the job. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you should take that as that Schaefer is potentially then the man for the job. And, a lot of people are mentioning, oh, well, the Rockies still finished with 119 losses with Warren Schaefer as manager. It's like something to keep in mind with that. Before Warren Schaefer took the job as the interim manager, the Rockies were on a truly awful trajectory. They were basically projected to shatter almost every major loss record in the history of the miserable game of baseball. And with Schaefer, when he took the helm, it wasn't perfect. The Rockies were still bad, but they eased off the gas that had their car set to careen off the cliff.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. How many wins did they have by the time Warren Schaefer took over? Like,
7.
yeah. And yeah, the team was not good. And did putting Schaefer in immediately turn the team around? No. And he still oversaw plenty of losses. But you have to put it in perspective because, like we said, you could see progression in how the team was playing throughout the year. How many times did we see those late game rallies? Like this was a team that didn't give up. A lot of the time in games, there would be those inklings of a comeback or big performances and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's because he's a good inspirational figure for that clubhouse for all those young players
Yeah.
coming up in your leaguer.
Yeah, the attitude change in that
Yeah.
clubhouse, in that dugout, where and we had people push back against this, where it's like, well, we don't want these guys to be happy because they're so bad. But it's like the entire team being miserable, looking forlorn and defeated, and just completely checked out in the clubhouse and on the dugouts is not what you want to see. And the longer that Schaefer was there, the more that you felt that the guys were actually playing for something, that they weren't miserable. Like, yeah, losing stinks, but we can go out there and have fun doing our awesome job of being a big league baseball player. And I think a lot of that is reflected in Warren Schaeffer's post-game pressers and how different they were from Bud Black's. And I'm not trying to, throw Bud Black under the bus or anything like that. We've talked extensively about his managerial shortcomings, and I don't think those really need to be brought up again. But for Warren Schaeffer, the huge difference was, one, you could tell that he's not really a media guy that much, especially early on. But his big thing was always, even when there was a loss, to try and point out the things that the guys did well, to not throw a specific player or group of players under the bus and say, you know what, yeah, such and such had a bad outing today, but did you see when they did this? That was pretty good, and that's something that we can grab on and build on, that kind of thing. And that's important for a rebuilding clubhouse, for a team that is bad, is being able to latch on to what few positives there are to inspire the team and give the media and give the team something to build on every game, even in a loss.
Yeah. And Schaefer, he's got those qualities, and we'll take a quick break here. When we come back, Evan, we're just going to keep on talking about this because there's so much more to talk about with Warren Schaeffer, and we talked a little too much about Black Friday and sports, but that's okay. So come on back here on Affected by Altitude. Welcome back here to Affected by Altitude. Skyler and Evan here with you. And Evan, I think you were kind of alluding to and kind of leading into something I think that is a huge aspect for Warren Schaeffer is the respect he has from the Rockies clubhouse. And DePodesta, that was kind of one of his biggest things that he talked about early on about looking for a manager. And he didn't even interview another manager candidate, Evan. Like he looked at him, looked at other avenues of, okay, these are guys we could look at, but then ultimately decides on Schaefer. And I think the big thing is because he kept pointing out the job and role of a manager as someone that can have a great relationship. Not with the front office. Of course, that's going to be a big part of it too, but just player relationships, working together, that collaborative effort. And I think Schaefer, throughout the year, he really showed that was one of his biggest and strongest qualities is that relationship and respect he had in the clubhouse. And, Patrick Saunders had talked about a ton of the players that he had heard from that were excited and wanted Schaefer to stick around, that he was a good thing for that clubhouse. And I think that's something that people are really overlooking or not putting enough stock in of how important that is for a big league manager, especially in today's game.
Yeah, and a really good example of that is Kyle Freeland coming out and saying, that he's excited to have Schaefer as the manager, and said, we love playing for him and the type of mentality and passion that he brings to the field every day.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've got buy-in from the guy who is now the elder statesman of the organization, for better or for worse, in Kyle Freeland, and a guy who does at the end of the day kind of speak for the clubhouse as kind of an unofficial captain, especially with Ryan McMahon gone and some of the other older players now departing, that the buy-in from the players in their manager is really important. And to have a guy like Kyle, to have other players coming out and going, this is our guy, we're excited for this, that's a good building block.
Yeah. Because there was frustrations probably from some that are like, yeah, but it'd be good for a new voice instead of Bud Black. And they got that with Schaefer, and I think that really helped in that clubhouse, like we had mentioned. And yeah, you're going to hear those quotes where it is a very Rockies move. Like, I understand that, where it's, oh, the right answer was already in the house. In this instance, it can actually be true with an interim manager that then you just promote to the manager. And because Schaefer has had a successful coaching career, like every level that he's gone, he's had success in one way or another. He's always had great relationships with players. And so it's just natural that it's just carried to the big leagues. And he was inexperienced last year. You could see that as he's adjusting on the fly, falling into this situation, trying to make the most of it. But the fact that he was able to wrangle in that clubhouse and really help continue to motivate them even when it's pretty easy for everybody to just give up and go through the motions on the season. That's a big part of those relationships.
Yeah, and you could tell that like Warren Schaeffer is a guy who is emotionally invested from his first big league ejection as the manager, where you got a hat throw, you got a gum throw, you had him on his knees and gesturing. It's a guy who's got the emotional buy-in, and this is something that he's done, like you said, at every level he's managed at. He managed for Single A Asheville, he managed for Double A Hartford, had solid success with both of those parts of the organization. And really the only place where he didn't have a ton of success as the manager was AAA Albuquerque, which is an extremely difficult place to have success, especially with what we know about the Rockies' player development and their depth in the minor league system, where often, when you're getting the top, if you get the top prospects there, if they truly are top prospects, they are not there for long.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, AAA is the level where guys kind of flame out, for better or for worse.
Yeah. It's a lot of those veteran minor league signings for pitching, especially, and all that stuff. So, but still, you could look at a lot of performances from young guys and the years he was there and the success they had there. And then it flames out when they get to the big leagues. Think so. But I understand what people would be like, no, you got to get rid of him and bring in one of the old heads, one of these veteran leaders so can teach them how to win, someone who's been there before type of thing. And I think that's I don't want to say stupid, but it kind of a misguided way of thinking when it comes to what a big league manager is. Because you look at Mike Schilt, he didn't play, and he was a good manager. And so it's like not there isn't a one size fits all one right answer for every manager position. Like no, Joe Madden was not the right answer. Don Mattingly, no, not the right answer. Like like you had mentioned before, there's a rough situation where winning's not on the horizon. Why bring in those guys?
Yeah.
Who will probably need a pretty penny too.
And for the goodness, I completely just spaced on how I was going to phrase this. For the guys who are saying that kind of thing, I think the word I would look at is it's short-sighted. The
Yeah.
idea of, well, we'll just bring in an expensive, flashy, veteran manager or someone who's got more experience, and that'll just fix everything. But we've
Yeah.
learned that in baseball, especially, there is no single piece that magically makes you win. Look at the Texas Rangers this year in their final year with Bruce Bochy as their manager. And Bruce Bochy, one of the best managers to ever do it, in my opinion. But the Rangers struggled this year.
Yeah.
Or Snitker with the Atlanta Braves. Like, nobody wins forever.
Well, you think too, like, oh, when the White Sox first brought in Tommy Lasorda again, how did that pan out?
You mean,
Oh, it didn't.
you mean Tony La Russa?
Yeah, Tony Lasorda. Tommy Lasorda. That wouldn't work either. Evan rolled him out in his casket.
I'm afraid your starting right fielder's been dead
Yeah,
for 130
Tony
years.
La Russa. Hey, I had the right verbiage in there with a
Yeah,
T
yeah,
name and a
your
La.
TL. T
Yeah, Tommy
LeBlanc.
Lasorda, Tommy La Russa. Like, Tony La Russa. Like, that didn't pan out for the White Sox. Like, it wasn't a good. So, but maybe back in the day, back in the 80s, yeah, that's how it works. But I think the role of a manager has changed a lot. The way it works nowadays, where the front office is so interconnected with the daily workings of an organization, of a roster, that the manager is just executing what the front office wants done. And old heads that are kind of stuck in their ways, they're not open minded. They don't want to do things differently than the way they've always done, like the Rockies' previous manager. Then there's the disconnect and things don't work out. You need an open minded manager who's willing to work and do what kind of the front office, get along with what the program the front office is wanting to do. So Shea fits that mold of he's open minded and all in on the analytical stuff and wants to work with DePodesta and figure out how to Coors Field.
And think about how many times we had the argument in the Bud Black era of how much power does Bud Black actually have when it comes to the roster, when it comes to the lineups, when it comes to strategy? And we mentioned time and time again the disconnect between Bud Black and his coaching staff versus what the rest of the organization seemed to be trying to do, especially in the
Yeah.
minor leagues, where you have in the minor leagues a completely different pitching philosophy, it seemed like. And then you get them up to the majors, and you've got Bud Black trying to push them into the cookie cutter mold of throw your sinker at the knees.
Yeah. Oh,
And
where you're bringing up this top prospect? Oh, he's going to sit on the bench because he needs to learn how to be a big leaguer. He needs to learn how to ride buses.
yeah, and Schaefer wasn't perfect with that. You know, when we brought up Drew Romo at the end of the season and he barely played, that was
But
frustrating. I'm not going to
yeah,
lie.
but at
And
least he straight up said, "Hey, we want these two guys getting a rotation, so there's no room for him." At least there's like a valuable explanation. Like, yeah, I get it. You could have easily fit Romo in there, but you can see his reasoning. Whereas Bud Black, like, this guy's not playing because reasons.
yeah, the the old adage of he's got to learn how to fly on the planes and do all of that
Yeah.
stuff. And it's like, Bud, it's 2025. We've all flown on a plane.
Hmm.
Like it's not perfect. And honestly, just going back to it really quick, the probably the only thing that does kind of irk me a little is that they did not interview any other candidates. Like, I think you probably could have at least brought in a couple guys and
Yeah.
and done some interviews and really done some additional soul searching. But I also get that pretty much the moment DePodesta got here, he was probably already thinking that Schaefer is the guy that he wanted,
Yeah.
which is
Because
fine. But
yeah, it's kind of goes back to like the time crunch stuff of, okay, maybe if he had more time, if he had been hired way earlier, then he probably has time to interview more. But with the time crunch and winter meetings, he has so many other things on his plate. It's easier to just hire Schaefer, especially with the lockout and everything that'll come up. Because I hate that we have to say, yeah, the lockout's going to happen, which as a sports fan, you're like, oh, that's awful that you have to think like that. But so just locking up Schaefer, okay, here's a continuity thing for before and after the lockout. We don't have to worry about the manager spot for a while. There's part of that too. So there's like the logistical, like, quality of life things. But saying maybe if he had more time, yeah, we probably do get more interviews and we hear from other candidates that maybe they have, and maybe we end up with somebody else. But
and and I think what's more important than the Schaefer hire himself is I really want to see who Schaefer gets to build out his own staff with,
mhm,
who is going to be brought in for some of these other positions, because this will be the year that Warren Schaefer gets to actually build his own coaching staff. He's not just stuck with mostly, Bud Black's holdovers from last year and Clint Hurdle, who was with the team to do them a favor. And that's why I laughed so much at all of the people who brought up, oh, watch, Clint Hurdle's going to be the GM, Clint Hurdle's going to be the PBO, Clint Hurdle's going to be the manager for next year. And it's like, no, Clint Hurdle, if you look at his Instagram, where he is already back to gallivanting across the country in loud floral shirts,
yeah,
like,
he
this
he
is a
doesn't want to
guy
do that
who
grind.
was very clearly enjoying his retirement and came back with the Rockies in a day-to-day role as a favor. And
Yeah,
I greatly appreciate him doing that. But I think even Clint Hurdle realized, because we've watched Clint Hurdle grow as a baseball operations guy, as a manager from when he was originally with the Rockies, where Clint Hurdle was pretty staunchly anti-analytics when he first came into the league as a manager. He
mhm,
did not like sabermetrics. He did not like analytics. And much more now is, you've seen him recognize and go, yes, those are important. And his real caveat is just, and I think it's the right kind of caveat, is you can't only be driven by analytics. You've got to mix the analytics with your day-to-day baseball stuff, with the emotional stuff, with all the other stuff, and intertwine it. And we've already heard that from DePodesta, who,
mhm,
coming into this role, he said that he's learned is that you need to be better at building an overall team and not just focus entirely on the analytics aspect of it.
yeah.
And
that's what Schaefer's part of. Like, he's part of that too. He's of that mindset. The old
and
school versus new school working together.
exactly. And so now what you want is for Schaefer, working with DePodesta, of course, because of course DePodesta is going to have a say in who is on that coaching staff, to bring in like-minded individuals. And I think we saw some pretty interesting results with a lot of the younger guys who are of that mindset who got brought in interim roles. I'm really interested to see what happens with Nick Wilson and Jordan Pacheco. I am really interested to see, who else sticks around. We've got other guys in the organization who are bought in like this. You've got guys like Tony Wolters and Scott Oberg, guys who have not just played with the organization, but are also bought into the more new school philosophy of intertwining. New school, teams have been doing this for 10 plus years at this point. Intertwining your analytics with your day-to-day baseball operations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going to be the big thing this offseason. Who does he fill out the rest of that coaching staff with? And I think that's part of it too, Evan. Too, is he, from day number one when spring training starts, Schaefer will have that opportunity to kind of shape the culture and philosophy, and this is how we're going to play baseball as the Colorado Rockies from day one. Because his brand of baseball, much different than Bud Black. What we saw, what Schaef's was a lot more base stealing, base running aggressiveness, small ball, doing that kind of stuff, a little bit more hustle and hustle attitude type thing. But he has a chance to implement his systems and whatnot from day one. He has an off season to help figure that out and do it from day one instead of being plopped right in the middle of the season, in the in the dumpster, and have to try and figure things out from there. But he has control from day one to try and do stuff. And that makes a huge difference. I know we may not think it does. You can just plug and play, but no, I would assume it makes a huge difference as opposed to dropping in midseason, as opposed to I'm in charge from day one. This is what we're doing. And I'm the full-time manager. Dang it.
Yeah. And honestly, we've talked about it a couple times before, but it's hard to think of really anybody from Bud Black's coaching staff that you could justify bringing back. Like
They're all gone now.
maybe Ron Gideon.
I think they
But
built the stadium and Ron Gideon was there. So
he just never left.
how long has Ron Gideon been with this team?
I feel I'm gonna have to figure this out because it feels like
I'm
he's
going to
been
look it
here
up.
forever. But
he's been here a long time.
And I think
he's only been a coach since 2017.
Really?
With
it
the Rockies.
Really does feel like he's been here forever.
Yeah, so he has been in the system for a long time. He joined the Rocky system back in 1996.
Oof. Okay. Yeah. So he has essentially been here forever.
So he's been in the with the organization for a long time, but he's been on the big league staff since 2017.
Yeah, and that's an argument people have made against Warren Schaeffer, who's been with the organization since 2007 when he was drafted as a player. But at the same time, I argue that it's not quite the same thing.
Yeah.
It's really difficult because there are legitimate reasons for saying I don't think Warren Schaeffer is the best fit. Of course there are. You can make a reason for pretty much anybody and any time for, I think the opposite. But at the end of the day, I think right now, this is the right move for this organization. And it's not a surprising move. It's not a flashy move. It's not a move that's going to make anybody jump out of their seats and jump for joy. I think some people, I hope, maybe Warren Schaeffer probably was probably pretty pleased to get the interim tag removed. But, as we've spent the last, 40 some minutes talking about, this is a smart move as you lay the foundations of a rebuild. Because you touched on a little bit, Skyler, with him being plopped in midseason. When you are put in as the interim manager, 9 times out of 10, you're doomed from the start. It can't all be Jim Tracy turning things around in 2009 or Schneider with the Blue Jays that one year, or who's the manager for the Phillies, who is
Oh, Rob
also an
Thompson.
interim manager.
Rob
Those
Thompson.
situations are very rare.
Yeah.
And the Rocky, like we said, the Rockies were already on an awful trajectory when Warren Schaeffer was given the role of interim manager. And this year, are the Rockies going to be a contending team? No, 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 no. But you get to see what it's going to be like when from day one you have everybody on the same page and invested in the same outcome, which is let's get this rebuild off on the right foot.
Yeah. And part of it is it's not like no, Shafe isn't settling in like, yeah, we're probably not going to be good. It's we're going to try and turn this thing around as quickly as we can. And I think DePodesta is in that same boat of let's turn this thing around as quickly as possible because you can't do it like you could in the past where it's years of tanking and the slow. No, you got to have some urgency. And I think Shafe understands that. And I like this quote of like, we're expecting winning in Denver sooner than you think. And I'm like, heck yeah, I'm all for that. Because I don't want to sit through years of crap. Like I want Shafe to be able to experience that winning. I want all of us to as quickly as possible. And a rebuild doesn't have to take forever. It can be pretty quick. Like you can rebuild pretty quick. And I think that's the big part is that they're all in. They're bought into one each other. This isn't, even at the very least, this isn't a bad move. This isn't the horrendous, stagnant move the Rockies always make. It's not a bad move. It can be a very good move. We just have to let the season play out and see
Yeah.
what DePodesta does.
You want to know what would have been a bad move? Bringing back Bud Black.
Yeah.
Or honestly, I would have said like a really bad move would have been trying to get one of those very veteran
Yeah.
managers, trying to, if they had tried to go get, your Bruce Bochy's, your Brian Snitkers, uh, it would have, I think, turned out very similar to what happened when the White Sox brought in Tony La Russa.
Yeah. You needed a minor league a manager with a minor league mentality who knows how to develop, has been in player development and helping in that aspect and working with young players that those veteran guys haven't done. And so I think Shafe, he's 40, he's young, he's got a lot of energy, and he's got a lot of passion. And honestly, that's what you want in a manager is somebody who genuinely has a passion and cares about the players, about the city, about the team, and about winning baseball games. And that's what
Yeah.
Shafe is going to try and do.
And if you've ever had the opportunity to talk to Shafe even a little bit, it's a pretty stark difference in terms of how he talks to individuals, how he talks to players, how he talks to the media. It's refreshing. And I
Yeah.
think refreshing but familiar is what the Rockies kind of need right now.
Mm-hmm. Like when they brought out Starry, Evan, it's basically Sierra Mist, but they tweaked it just enough where it's still refreshing, yet it's new and it's familiar.
This is completely lost on me. I don't drink soda.
I'm
I have
Sierra
never
Mist.
even had Sierra Mist.
Goodness. But yeah, fun times with Schaefer, and best of luck to him. And we'll see what happens the rest of this offseason and going into the regular season about coach and staff and all that stuff. But interesting things. But we'll take a quick break here, Evan. When we come back, there may be more news coming up this week. So come on back to find out what it may be here on Affected by Altitude. Back here to Affected by Altitude, rounding things out here on this episode of Fun Time. We talked a lot about Warren Schaeffer, maybe more than we had planned to, but hey, when there's not much news in the offseason, you gotta milk that baby dry.
And for what it's worth, like we've had multiple episodes now where there's less news and we'll go, oh, I don't think we're going to have enough for a full hour. And then of course we end up having enough because we're good at talking.
We're long-winded. But the winter meetings are coming up very soon, December 8th. So the next time you hear from us, they will have started and we'll see if anything coming up. But the big thing from that Warren Schaeffer press conference that he had with Paul DePodesta, we were not privy to. How can we get our podcast on that mailing list, Evan, so we can get in on those?
I think we just have to ask.
Oh, well, who would have thunk? But
And
the
why
big
didn't
thing,
you invite us to your press conference? You didn't ask to come to the
you didn't
press
ask to come.
conference.
But Paul DePodesta, are we settling on? Do we call him PDP? Or are we calling Depot? Like, what's the shorthand here?
Big Paulie.
Big Paulie,
Big Paulie. Hey, yo, Big Paulie.
Mr. Paul.
How you doing with them baseballs, Big Paulie?
I already don't like this character.
Oh, all right. Well, he's dead now.
But he had mentioned he had to go back to his home planet. They needed him. But what I'm trying to say is he talked about his next plan is to hire a GM and hopes to have one in place by the time the winter meetings start, so it gives him about a week. If he hasn't already hired a guy, and he's going to announce him tomorrow morning when this episode goes out. So if you heard it, hey, what a interesting decision that Paul DePodesta has made. But otherwise, Evan, a GM. What are you expecting out of a new GM hire?
A lot, honestly. To put it bluntly, really for whoever is going to be the GM, it's got to be the same kind of guy. It's got to be similar to Warren Schaeffer. And I think considering this is going to be Paul DePodesta's first front office hire, I think that's more likely than not is that he's going to get a guy who's in tune with how he wants to do things. But it has to be the same thing of analytics friendly, but more importantly, it's got to be a guy who knows how to communicate well, especially after the years we've had where other teams are like, the Rockies, man, they're so weird. We try and talk to them and we have no idea what they want or what it is that they're doing. We can't really have that anymore, especially if we want this rebuild to be successful. It's got to be a guy who knows baseball, knows how to communicate well with other teams, and is, again, bought into getting the Rockies over the hump with a combination of analytics and more new school baseball operations. And it's going to be tough. Like, I'm not going to lie that finding a guy who is going to be a perfect fit, I don't know how easy it's going to be. And I really don't know who any of the candidates would be. It's tricky because for the president of baseball operations hunt, for the longest time, we didn't know if it was going to be a GM or a PBO. And eventually we got that it's a PBO, but really all the candidates that we had interviewed could have been either at that point. Mm-hmm. And for the GM, what I really want is, I don't want to say no connection with the Rockies, because there are some guys with some connections to the Rockies I think might actually be kind of interesting in that role. I've somewhat joked about it, but I do think someday Ryan Spielborgs could actually make a pretty interesting general manager. Mm-hmm. But I want a guy who, even if they're inexperienced, has been working in and around baseball. But the biggest thing is communication. They've got to know how to communicate and figure things out. You've got to build relationships with the other GMs, something the Rockies have never really been able to do since the Dan O'Dowd era. That's, I think, my biggest thing.
Yeah, and it's weird just how how those positions work, because a lot of the times the president of baseball ops, well, he's the one that's really making all those decisions and calling all the shots, and then the GM just kind of is there to carry out what the PBO has told him to do. So I think, like with the Dodgers, Andrew Friedman, he's the one running that show. He's making the moves, he's doing all that stuff. But then he has Brandon Gomes as his general manager. We don't really hear from him very much. And so it's figuring out those roles. I don't know exactly how it's going to fit, because it's uncharted territory for the Rockies. For us, of, okay, what's the dynamic of that working relationship? But it's pretty much fits a lot of the things you're saying is, well, it's basically he's got to carry out DePodesta's vision, whatever it is, for the big league roster and stuff, while he operates working with the rest of the organization. And then so-and-so just kind of handles the day-to-day stuff with the main roster and whatnot. So it's mostly a guy that can, like you said, open-minded, collaborative, can carry out DePodesta's vision.
Yeah. What I do think is important, though, is in a GM, you also want a guy who can offer a little bit of pushback.
Yeah,
Because,
you don't want just
yes,
a rollover yes
the
man.
GM is generally carrying out what the PBO wants him to do. But at the same time, the GM and the PBO should be, in sync enough or in a respectful relationship enough that the GM can say, I don't know, Paul, I don't know how I feel about that. Here are my thoughts. Like, offer a little bit of pushback on
Yeah,
what could be a bad move or an unconventional move, or offer his own opinions and see what the PBO thinks. It's like you said, you don't want a GM who's just going to roll over, because then there's really no point of having them there to begin with.
yeah,
But if it can be a true collaborative conversational effort where they can talk things out and build on one another's ideas, that's really what you're looking for.
yeah. That's pretty much all we need. And so we'll see what happens this coming week. There's not a whole lot else to talk about because we don't even know who it is. But be on the lookout for that. It may come out the day you're hearing this on Monday. That's what they've been doing as of late. We get that random news on Monday, and then we stew on it all week. So then we can give our well-informed opinions, Evan.
Yeah. I
We have
would be
time to stew on it.
surprised
We
if
don't
we
get our
didn't.
hot reactions.
I would be surprised if we didn't hear about it at some point this week.
Yeah, we probably will if that was his goal to have somebody in place because the Rockies wanted to have somebody in place before the GM meetings. They did, and I hope to have somebody in before the winter meetings. They probably will. But yeah, we'll see about that. But not a whole lot else to talk about, Evan. Anything else you want to talk about? We got time to kill.
Uh, Ideas on guys you would be interested in having on Schaeffer's coaching staff, or brought into any of the open front office positions that have been opened up over the last couple weeks, like the multiple pitching coordinator roles and stuff like that.
I never know about like front office stuff because that's just a whole new ballpark of random people. But coaches are usually pretty easy to figure out. But not. But no, give me old Aaron Cookie somewhere in there in some capacity. Pitching coach. He wants to be a bullpen coach, an assistant pitching coach. Here's something Evan would talk about. Do the Rockies, do they go for the let's have multiple coaches, or are we going to kind of minimize and go less cooks in the kitchen approach with coaching?
I think they got to find that perfect middle ground, because the Rockies have been, if anything, too traditional, where they potentially don't have enough coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the minor league system, where you're watching other more advanced teams, they've got 4, 5, 6 coaches, and the Rockies just have 3. But for the big
That
league
costs
team,
money, Evan.
yeah, you got to be willing to spend that money. But for the big league team, I think you want to find an even ground. I thought the tandem hitting coaches of Nick Wilson and Jordan Pacheco worked out pretty well last year. I think for pitching coaches, you might want to have just the one, but then that plays into who you have as your pitching coordinators or pitching strategists and stuff like that. I would also really like to see Aaron Cook brought back to the organization some role, and I do think there are some inklings of that, like how we saw with Cookie being around the organization much more last year as an occasional guest coach. I would like to see a handful of other former Rockies be at least brought in on more official concrete advisory roles. Jorge De La Rosa, Aaron Cook, like you mentioned. We've talked about Adam Ottavino extensively. I think Tony Wolters is potentially due for a promotion with the work he's been doing in the Arizona Complex League. But my curveball for bench coach, what about Charlie Blackmon?
Mm-hmm. No.
What about Carlos Gonzalez?
I'm trying to think of these guys because they're spending time with their family, with their young kids. Like they don't need to be subjected to the full
That's
season
true. It's
grind
just,
of being bigly of that type of thing. They'd be interesting, absolutely, but I just don't think that's of their interest at the moment.
What about Bobby Meacham, the manager of the AA Hartford Yard Goats, who some people have suggested would have been a good candidate for the big league manager role?
I don't know. I don't know enough about Bobby Meacham.
I think it'd be an interesting move. It's one of those ones we have no idea what they're going to do, so I'm just sort of shooting names off and
Yeah.
seeing what sticks. I think Bobby is very similar to Warren Schaeffer in that he's been doing the minor league role, but for a lot longer. I do think what could make Bobby Meacham an interesting bench coach for Schaefer is that they do kind of foil each other. You know, Schaefer is the more new school, more emotional kind of guy, and Meacham is the more even keeled, old school kind of guy. Like a nice sort of collaboration between that. But honestly, I have no clue. Like, I am I've already said it a couple times. I'm really curious to see how this front office and how this coaching staff rounds out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially that bench coach role, because it's what do you want out of the bench coach role? Do you want like a more veteran presence who can kind of help mentor, you know, Warren? But then how do you prevent that guy from kind of taking over a little too much type of thing? Trying to find the right balance with
Yeah.
all that stuff.
And Clint Hurdle as the interim had a really good balance with Schaefer, I think, last year, because you knew that that Hurdle, sorry, didn't really want the full time manager position, but was there, to mentor Schaefer and sort of help him grow and develop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what would be good is having like an experienced big leaguer that has had success, no, even a moderate amount of success, to be on that coaching staff in some capacity, no, as a bench coach to help mentor, because no, a guy that can be a mentor for that clubhouse of the Rockies have talked about that needing leaders that have been there and done things. No, Bobby Meacham didn't have a very successful big league career. I'm sorry, it wasn't very good as a middle infielder. No, there in the 80s or whatever. Nothing to write home about. But no, maybe finding a big leaguer that has had success. So yeah, like a Charlie Blackman, a number of guys that are around there that maybe they've been a manager before, they've been coaching around, but somebody that can help be a mentor in that clubhouse. And Warren Schaeffer never reached the big leagues. No, it helps fill in some of those gaps of experience.
Yeah. The question then is, how recent would you want their big league success to be? Because I can think of other
Mhm.
guys that the Rockies have even looked at for coaching roles in the past, like Jason Giambi. And would you say that his prime, his top was too far away at this point for him to be an effective foil to Schaefer like that? Because we talked about with Bud Black as the manager of, yes, Bud, you were a big league player and you had some success and you even won a World Series, but that was almost 40 years ago.
Mhm. I think like Giambi, who was like really good over a long period of time. I think that's a big difference in
Yeah.
there too.
Sustained success versus
Yeah,
a flash in the pan.
because even then, like you look at Giambi, and yeah, 2023 or 2013 with the Cleveland Guardians. Yeah, it wasn't the best, but hey, he still had 9 home runs and 31 RBIs in 71 games.
And
Is
he
that
was a trillion years old at that point.
yeah, 42, 43, but you look back at like, you know, 2011, let's say, let's go back there. 2011, 13 home runs with the Rockies, 260 average at the age of 40. Like that's still good into his golden years. Remember when he interviewed for manager
Yeah.
after that 20 for in coming into 2012, 2013? Yeah, it
I
was
think it
coming into
was,
2013.
yeah, because it was him and Walt Weiss.
Old Sandy Alomar Jr. was in that mix,
Oh yeah, that's right.
who was also a former Rocky.
Yeah, and in 2011, Jason Giambi was one of the top 12 in wins above replacement for that team.
Yeah, he had a 1.1. Dang. But yeah, and then after 2012, he interviewed And then when he didn't get it, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to stay playing then," because he would have retired and become manager. That was his plan. That would have
And
been
I think we've
interesting.
seen that with with Adam Ottavino's. We have no idea if Otto's going to retire or not, but you've got him going. Like, he hasn't even officially announced his retirement. He's like, I could go into front office stuff.
Yeah, but it's like that's like the type of player stuff. Guys that have had success. I think Giambi would. I'm surprised Giambi hasn't become a coach somewhere yet. I think maybe he does some stuff with the Yankees, just kind of as a advisory role type thing. I'd welcome back the GMBino.
Does he bring the golden thong with him?
Hey, I'll take it. Rockies need it. They need to bust out of those slumps.
Yeah, they need something.
Let's see. Here, yeah, I haven't seen anything.
We're breaking one of the cardinal rules of podcasting, which is you're not supposed to let yourself have dead air.
Yeah,
So
it's all good.
I
But
just misspelled Giambi.
Gambi. Yeah, I don't know. I still haven't seen any coaching stuff for him. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
Wikipedia doesn't really have anything in terms of his post-playing career.
Now, what if like the Rockies are like, you know what? We're going to bring in Carlos Beltran as a coach. He's also going to bring some trash cans with him.
I would not like that.
You say that now, but wait until we're mashing at Coors Field again.
Okay, I'd maybe like that a little bit.
You heard it here first, folks, that Evan believes the Astros did nothing wrong.
Well, I'm more thinking of, I remember when after 2018, who was it? It was the backup catcher for the Brewers, Eric Kratz, is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Who accused the Rockies of cheating and got a bunch of details wrong, first of all. But how sad is it that, like, you accuse the Rockies of cheating, but the Rockies were, if they were cheating, weren't particularly good at it.
Yeah. We're talking about Theragun on a wooden bench.
Oh, that was a rough postseason.
Fun stuff. Yeah, what's the coaching role here to close out? What's the role that is the most important to fill correctly?
Pitching coach.
Yes.
I think more than anything, the Rockies need to start figuring out pitching, and the major league pitching coach is going to be tremendous on that, because we saw Schaeffer do some of the right things when it came to coaching the pitchers, but the Rockies pitching was still really bad last year. And there was some initial success from when Warren Schaeffer took over, when you saw guys start to pitch more to their strengths and do what they are good at versus that cookie cutter mold. But I wonder how successful that could have been on a sustained level, because I don't think Schaeffer and Darryl Scott were ever on the same page when it came to that, when it came to pitching strategy. Because Darryl Scott was Bud Black's guy, and they were definitely on the same page when it came to pitching strategy.
Yeah. What about, we had seen Dave Veers, former reliever here with the Rockies for a couple years back in the late 90s, kind of has thrown his hat into the ring for openings with Dick Monfort, which the fact that people can just like call up Dick Monfort and say, "Hey, I'm interested in this job," and he's like, "Oh, okay,"
is the weirdest thing.
Yeah,
but then again, that's always been kind
works.
of what makes Dick Monfort so odd and special, is that, anybody can just send him an email and he might respond to it.
Should I email him, ask if I can get a job?
Do it. I dare you.
Can I be the assistant GM?
Dave Veras, I legitimately appreciate that he's one of those guys that did not spend a ton of time with the Rockies during his career, but has some attachment. Like, Dave Veras was a reliever for 2 years in the late 90s. And the fact that he's still, considers himself a member of the Rockies, a proponent of the Rockies, despite that. And he had one really, really good season in 1998 in 63 appearances. He threw a 2.83 ERA in 76 and a third innings at pre-Humidor Coors Field. That's nothing to sneeze at. But
Yeah.
his next season was pretty rough, and he had some other good seasons, but 10 years, an overall pretty solid career. I don't know if I would want to throw him immediately in as big league pitching coach, but it's one of those things where if he wanted to come in an advisory role, like I've suggested for other guys, like spring training or occasionally coming into the big league team and being a guest coach or stuff like that, I'm 100% on board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just interesting. Like, and then he ends up just sticking around in Colorado and coaching at Cherry Creek High School and whatnot. But you hear read an interview that he had, with the Denver Post, and he starts saying a lot of the same things we've been hearing from with Bud Black and older heads of how you got to pitch sinkers at the knees, and yeah, sometimes you have to throw high, but you got to get sinkers, and those are what's going to work. Like, no, it's not. It hasn't.
Yeah. Now, if you wanted him to coach, especially the guys on the team who do throw sinkers,
Yeah.
like
Or the splitter. The
I
splitter,
think
I
you
think is
could
what he was
have
talking about.
some individual specialty coaches who's like, man, this guy knew how to make a slider work at Coors Field. Let's get him in here
Yeah.
and teach all the guys that rely on sliders. Like, I think that could be really interesting. Is not necessarily coaching by committee, but trying to sort of even out who does what and where. It's
Yeah.
it's so complicated because the Rockies pitching, let's be frank, is a mess. It has been a mess for the majority of their existence, and it's just never something they've figured out. And honestly, I don't know what the right way is to attack it. But I at least appreciate guys like Dave Veras who say that they are willing to help with that,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're not necessarily the right person for the job. It's just nice to hear.
It's nice to be wanted.
It is nice to be wanted. It's nice to get, because the issue is, and I think we've discussed this before, but this is a good way to sort of round things out, I think, for the day. The Rockies detractors, the spurned former players, the guys who only have negative things to say, tend to be the loudest and the most amplified. But it is nice to know that there are people who have spent time with the Rockies, be it a short amount of time or a long amount of time, who have positive things to say about the organization, about the people in it, and where they think the organization can head. I think about Jorge De La Rosa specifically wanting to go into the Mexican Baseball Hall of Fame in a Colorado Rockies uniform. I think about now Dave Veras, who has been very kind about the Rockies. Garrett Atkins, guys who, Jeff Cirillo, who only spent about 2 years here with us before moving on. Guys who enjoyed their time here and legitimately seem to want to see the Rockies succeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting stuff. But I think that'll close this episode out, Evan. Fun times to have been had on this day. And that'll about do it. Where can the folks find you?
You can find me over on Blue Sky at evanlang27.bsky.social. I would love to hear from you. Catch me over on Purple Row writing the Monday Rock Piles. We're in the final stretch for ranking the Rockies. We're just about to hit the top 10. We're in players with positive wins above replacement, so keep an eye on that. Remember that you can find Rocky Mountain Rooftop on all of your favorite podcasting platforms of choice: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. If it's got podcasts, we are on it. And if you want to watch the video of the version of the show, you can head on over to YouTube. Remember that you can find Rocky Mountain Rooftop on all of your favorite social media platforms of choice: Blue Sky, Twitter, and even YouTube at Rocky Mountain Rooftop. That's at ROCKYMTN Rooftop.
And then find me over on Twitter at Skyler Timmons, or over on Blue Sky, stimmons13.bsky.social, on Wednesday Rock Piles at purplerow.com. And that's going to roll it out here. 2025 is almost over, Evan. We're coming down to the wire. 10 more episodes till number 200.
Can you believe that we've been doing this for 200 episodes almost?
Ugh.
I was thinking about that when I set up the recording room today and was like, are we really at 190 already?
It'll be here before you know it. But we'll be here every step of the way, telling you more. And so until next time, this has been Affected by Altitude. Farewell!
Farewell!
This has been Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast with Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. Catch new episodes every Monday on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to follow us on YouTube as well for video versions of the show.